ज्ञानानन्दमयं देवं निर्मलस्फटिकाकृतिम् आधारं सर्वविद्यानां हयग्रीवम् उपास्महे. नमस्सर्वेभ्यः. Today we will be discussing the concept natural language processing and the relevance of Indian grammatical tradition to NLP in this session. So, natural language processing is a subfield of computer science. Basically, this field focuses on the interaction between human languages and computers. And there is a quote by Alan Turing says that a computer could be considered intelligent if it could carry on a conversation with a human being without the human realizing they were talking to a machine. See, when it comes to this language, we often hear the words human language, animal language, and artificial language. But what is this natural language? Why we have to use the modifier natural? Here, the word natural refers to the spoken language. So, it's very difficult to interact with the machine by using the natural language because we are using the artificial languages, per se programming languages, to interact with the machines. So, now the efforts are going on to communicate with the machine with the help of our natural languages. And natural language processing explores appropriate language structures, storing and processing natural language on computers using proper or standard grammars so that we can meaningfully process human languages automatically for various purposes. With NLP, computers can properly analyze, understand, and derive meaning from human languages. So when it comes to the purpose of NLP, so one of the most important purposes of NLP is to understand language, its structure, and how this structure is related to meaning in a systematic way across various human languages. And the processing of a language may involve information extraction, text summarization, question answering, and information retrieval. You will see the examples. So information extraction. So information extraction means extracting specific concepts from text. For example, in the case of Google Mail, we will get some information, and if there is any date or time and all other things are there in that particular mail, it will extract that information and you can see that it in the Google Calendar. So it is, extracting the required information, specific information. So this is called information extraction. What to extract, from where to extract, these topics are being discussed in this particular thing called information extraction. And when it comes to the text summarization, I will give one example. While writing thesis and all other things, we go through the review of literature and all other things, right? So after reading the review of literature, that can be either a thesis or articles and so on. So we have to write the gist of that particular thing. We should not copy as it is, right? So we have to write the essence of that particular thing in our own words. We have to paraphrase it. So there are some tools, summarization, automatic summarization tools are there. So if you upload that particular text or any document, what it does is it will automatically give the summary of that particular article in one page, or that's up to you. That depends on the need of the user. So this is called text summarization. And the third one is question answering systems. So it is concerned with building systems that automatically answer questions posed by the humans in a natural language. This can be found in various websites and applications for attracting users, specifically in the areas of the financial sector and in the scientific community and pharmaceutical industry and biomedical industry. So you can interact with the system and you can ask any question and it will give that answer in the, according to the need of the user. So this is called question answering systems. And the other one is information retrieval. So this is a software program basically it deals with the organization, storage, and retrieval and evaluation of information from various document repositories, uh, mainly the textual information. So you can see in the case of Google, if the user poses a query, uh, it will retrieve the information, the required information. So this is the concept of information retrieval. And there are various applications of NLP. The first one is machine translation. As you know that we are translating a language with the help of machine. So source language and target language will be there. For example, if I want to translate a text or a language string from one language to another language, with the help of this machine translation systems, I can translate. Uh, for example, you might have seen the Google Translator. It will translate the source language to target language. For example, my source language is English and I want to get the information in Hindi or some other Indian language. So I will get. Apart from this, Google Translator, there's a machine translation system called Sanskrit Hindi machine translation system that is being developed by Professor Amba Kulkarni, University of Hyderabad. And in IIIT Hyderabad also, people are developing machine translation systems for various Indian languages. And when it comes to this discourse analysis may be defined as the process of performing text or language analysis, which involves text interpretation and knowing the social interactions. For example, Ram ate an apple. He is going to school. And after some sentences, again, you have started that he plays cricket and so on. Some sentences are there. Now the thing is whether that he refers to Ram or not, how we can get that information. So there are several layers to understand the coherence between the sentences. So when it comes to this discourse analysis, you have to understand whether this he refers to the Ram or something else. So where to restrict that particular thing. So various tools are there. In the case of Sanskrit, especially in the Raghuvamsha, he says that Soham Ajanma Shuddhanam, like that he will start Kalidasa. And there is no verb in that particular shloka. After 5 shlokas or 6 shlokas, you can see Raghunam Anvayam Vakshe. So Vakshe means I will explain. So Soham Aham Vakshe. So after 5 shlokas only you got the Kriya Pada. Now how to relate this thing with the Karta, that Aham, whether that is the Karta of that Vakshe or something else. So for that we write some programs, and based on this we will do the anaphora resolution, whether this Aham is the suitable thing for this Kriya Pada or not, like that we will see. So this is all about the discourse analysis. And when it comes to this parser, parser is a program basically that works out the grammatical structure of the sentences. It will show the relation between the words in a sentence. For example, Rama goes to forest. So here Rama is an agent and forest is the object, like that it will show. When it comes to this Sanskrit, since my main focus is on Sanskrit, so I am giving examples from Sanskrit. So Ramaha vanam gacchati, if I say, so here Rama is the karta of the going activity, gamana kriya, and vana is the karma of the gamana kriya. Like that it will show the dependency analysis. So it will show the semantic labels, karta, karma, and so on, how the words are related in a sentence. First it will analyze the sentence, and after that it will show the relation between the words in a sentence. That is the main purpose of the parser. And when it comes to this OCR means optical character recognition. Basically it recognizes the printed or handwritten text and convert them into machine readable text. So the famous OCRs are Google Tesseract OCR, and when it comes to this Sanskrit, Oliver Helwig is a German Indologist and computational linguist. So he has developed an OCR for Sanskrit and Hindi and some Indian language like Tamil, Telugu, like that. So this is all about that OCR. And when it comes to the sentimental analysis, so sentimental analysis is also known as opinion mining. Basically, it is widely applied to reviews the feedback of the customers and whether you are getting the, I mean, you have done some sort of survey and out of that, assume that survey consists of 4,000 participants and how many of them are willing to accept this particular product and how many of them are neutral, how many of them are, got frustrated and they are not at all accepted this product. Like that, you can do the sentiment analysis. Based on that, you can brand your products. So various tools are there. So this will help in branding their products. And when it comes to the uh, spell checkers basically used to check the spelling, and if there are any errors, it will suggest the alternatives. Many of us are using Google search engine, right? So unknowingly, we will make some sort of errors in the search area. So it will automatically give the alternative suggestions, whether this is the thing you want to know or not. So that is called spell checker. And not only it will check the spelling, it will check the grammar also sometimes. Yes. And the other one is text to speech and speech to text. So text to speech devices are there. Basically, those who are having that disability, speaking disability and other things, they will use the text to speech devices. It will convert the text to speech, and speech to text, the vice versa of that text to speech. Examples for this thing is Siri. I mean, in iPhone and Apple, you can use that Siri, and in Android, that Google Assistant is there. So those are the examples of speech to text. And when it comes to this morphological generators and analyzers, morphology is the study of the words. So again, see, morphology has different senses. I'm not going into those details, but according to linguistics, morphology means the study of words. So here, how words are derived and how we can show the derivation process, and after that derivation process we'll get the final word. So we will not show the entire derivation process, we will get the final word. So we will apply, we will write some programs. Based on the programs, it will, generate the final form. So that is called generator, and the vice versa of generator is called analyzer. So it will analyze the word. For example, Rama Shabda is there in Sanskrit. It will, if you give the Rama Shabda as an input to the morphological generator, it will show all the declensions of the Rama Shabda, Rama, 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 and so on. But when it comes to this morphological analyzer, it will show the analysis of the word. If I say Ramasya, it will give the analysis as Rama is the lexeme, that is Pratipadika, and Sashti Vibhakti, genitive case, singular form of Rama Shabda is Ramasa. Like that, it will show. This is the purpose of developing these morphological generators and analyzers. If there is any doubt in understanding a particular word or how that word got derived, you can use the morphological generators or analyzers. So these are not only restricted to Sanskrit language. Many languages are having these morphological generators and analyzers. And the last one is word sense disambiguation. Basically, words have many senses. We have to figure out the exact meaning of a word. So many senses of there of a particular word, and how to disambiguate that particular thing. So for example, I'll give one instance. I saw a bat. I saw a bat. So here this sa, SAW, sa is there, right? So sa means the past tense of the C is sa. That is one interpretation. And sa mills are there, right? So that SAW means sa. And bat means the cricket bat or the mammal bat. So now if you give this sentence as input to the machine, I saw a bat, it will show when it comes to this translation basically. So this problem occurs in the case of machine translation, that's word sense disambiguation. So it will show two different analysis. So but we need one analysis based on the context, how to resolve this ambiguity. So this is called lexical ambiguity. So this is word level ambiguity. And when it comes to the other thing, you can see the semantic ambiguity. I will give one instance. For example, John and Mary are married. So here, if you see, there is an ambiguity whether both are married to each other or they married some other persons. That sort of ambiguity is there. So this is semantic ambiguity. And I will give another example. I saw a man with a telescope. So now again, I saw a man with a telescope, or I saw a man who is holding a telescope. So two interpretations are there. So how to resolve this type of ambiguities in a language? And I will give one instance from Sanskrit also. Yeah. Harihi shashakam bhakshayati. So here the word hari is a polysemous word, nanarthaka shabda. So which has 14 meanings according to the Amarakosha. Amarakosha is a thesaurus. So 14 meanings are there. Basically the meaning is Hari kills rabbit. So Hari has many senses, like Lord Vishnu, the ray, sun, moon, frog, lion, monkey, horse, snake, and so on. Among these meanings, which one is the apt meaning? How we can identify, how we can eliminate the 13 meanings out of 14? One is the apt meaning, right? So how we can resolve this ambiguity? So here we will say that we have to think about the meaning of the verb. So in Sanskrit, Harihi Shashakam Bhakshayati, that Bhakshayati means it involves both the activity of the both jaws, actually upper jaw and lower jaw. We have to see, while Bhakshayati means you have to use both jaws, right? So based on this activity and some world knowledge, we can say that only two things, two senses are possible in this case. One is the lion and the other one is sarpa, snake. Now again, how to eliminate? I mean, one thing is the apt one, right? So whether lion is the meaning of the hari in this context or the sarpa, how can you eliminate? So based on this activity, we can say bhakshayati involves that jaw, which you require teeth, and after that you have to chew. Then only it will enter, and after that you can say I ate that particular thing. But when it comes to the snake, it will not chew; it swallows. So the word for the activity of the snake, eating activity of the snake, is gilati or girati. So sarpaha gilati, not bhakshayati. So based on this, various techniques, we can say Hari Shashkam Bhakshati. Here Hari refers to Simha. So now how we can apply this information when it comes to this machine translation? So this is the major problem in the machine translation. So you have to check you have to resolve the ambiguity of various senses of a word. So for that we use various tools. In Sanskrit we will basically follow the Dhatvarda mainly, and apart from that some extra information is there. And our grammarians, especially Bhartrhari, he quoted some of the factors to resolve the ambiguity, like Samyoga Viprayoga and all other things. So I'm not going into those details. Yes, this is all about the word sense disambiguation. See, what is language processing? So processing of a language involves two things. One is generation and the other one is analysis. So when it comes to this communication process, speaker utters a sentence. Before uttering that sentence, he has some thought process in his mind, and he will communicate those thoughts or ideas in a form of a language, and he will express. And before that, he will encode the information in the form of a language string, and that is called generation. He will collect all those things and he will encode it. And when it comes to this listener, that is called Shrota, he will do the analysis, which means he decodes the language string, that sentence, where is the information and how that is coded, and all of things are required for both speaker as well as the listener. So whether this is related to the Kriya Pada as Karta or not, and how this is related, whether it is karma or not, like that you have to, even if now I am speaking, so you are, some thought process is happening and you are doing the anvaya, the relation between the words. So that is called analysis. I am doing the generation part and you are doing the analysis part. So both of us should know the concept called information coding. Information coding. So see, Panini, Panini was aware of the strength of language as an information coding device. Panini made the best use of this strength, and this is evident from his style of presenting the information in his sutras in Ashtadhyayi. For a person working in the field of natural language processing, the following questions are important. Where does the language code information? How much information does it code? How does the language code information? So these are the three things required. So then only you will be in a position to process the language. So where is the information coded? See, here you can see, I had given the example from Sanskrit. Krishna patham pathati. Krishna reads book or lesson, and Krishnena patah pathyate. Two sentences are there. So here Krishna patham patati is active voice and Krishnena patah pathyate is passive voice. So if you show these sentences to the Western linguists, they will say that Krishna is the karta, and it is in nominative case, and patha is the karma, and it is in accusative case, that is pradhama vibhakti and dvitiya vibhakti. And in the case of karmani prayoga, Krishnena is in tritiya vibhakti and patha is in pradhama vibhakti. So in karmani prayoga, in passive voice, the karta is in tritiya and the karma is in pradhama. So here they are not focusing on the information. See how the information is coded, which means, see, Krishna, the one which is in nominative case, can be designated as karta? No. And what about the karma, the one which is in dvitiya vibhakti is karma? Always like that? No. So the information is in the suffix. See, Krishna. So pratipadika and pratyaya. Krishna is a vibhakti, pradhama vibhakti. It has pratipadika and pratyaya. Similar, and patha, which has pratipadika, patha and pratyaya. So, and pathati, again, pat is a verbal root and ting is a pratyaya. So the suffix ti, it is carrying the information, that is called karta. So that is carrying, not the Krishna, neither Krishna nor Patha are carrying karta or karma. So first we have to understand where is the information coded. So the karta, that kartrutva sambandha, the relation of karta, that is coded in the T suffix. So here, before that, you have to apply some pratyaya called lakara, and that will be transformed to T. So here, if T indicates karta, then there is a concord or agreement between the Krishna and the Pathati. Hence, it is designated as karta, the Krishna, and the word which is designated as karta will get the pradhama vibhakti. That pradhama vibhakti doesn't indicate any relation, but it indicates gender, number, and other things. So here also Krishnena patah pathyate. So here pathyate, that yate indicates the karma. That suffix is carrying the information. So here it is necessary to identify which part of it is redundant and which part of the coding is genuine. So we have to understand where the information is coded. And this particular question helps us in ruling out the redundant information, which helps one to build a more reliable NLP system. The second question is how much information is coded. So here, three examples are there. Ramah kunchikaya talam udghatayati. Kunchika talam udghatayati. Talah udghatyate. Ramah kunchikaya talam udghatayati means Ram opened the lock with a key. And the other one is the key opened the lock. The third one is the lock opened. Ramah kunchikaya talam udghatayati and kunchika talam udghatayati, talah udghatyate. Here Rama is agent and kunchika is instrument and tala is goal according to the Western linguists. But according to Panini, all these three are considered as karta. So Rama is the karta of the activity, opening the lock, of opening activity, and kunchika talam udghatayati, here kunchika, that means the key, is karta, and talah udghatyate, the lock is karta. So how we are saying that in Western linguists they are saying that agent, instrument, and goal. Rama is agent and kunchika is instrument and tala is goal. And why we are saying, especially the Paninians, I mean Vyakaranas, are saying that all three are kartas only. And how you are getting this information? Where is this? How much information is coded, and how to identify that particular thing? See here, an activity involves more than one participants. This opening the lock, opening activity actually involves various participants. In the case of opening a lock, three sub activities are clearly involved. One is the insertion of the key by an agent. So in the first example, Rama kunchika talam udghadeti, Rama is inserting a key. And in the second example, kunchika talam udghadeti, so pressing up the levers of the lock by an instrument, that is key. And in the third, moving of the latch and opening of the lock. So here, three activities are different actually. In Mahabhashya, they say that cooking activity is there. Devadattaha pachati, sthali pachati, the vessel cooks, and kashtani pachanti, the firewood cooks. All these three are kartas. How, on what basis you are saying this all these three are kartas based on the activity. So an activity involves various sub-activities. Based on the sub-activities, we can say this is karta of that sub-activity. So here also, if you see the major activities, insertion of a key and the pressing of the levers, and after that the latch will open, right? So if you take these three things in the first sentence, Rama Kunchika Talam Udghateti, we can say Rama is karta and Kunchika is, instrument, and Tala is goal, karma. But if you say Kunchika Talam Udghatete and Tala Udghatyate, you cannot say that Kunchika is always an instrument. You should not say there is an absence of karta, because Kunchika is the karta of that Udghatayati. Here the meaning is pressing of the levers. The meaning will change. The of the activity Udghatayati, here the meaning is different from the previous thing. So Kunchika Talam Udghatayati, in this case Udghatayati means pressing of the levers of the lock by the key. But here, see, there is no such instrument, because we cannot get that information from the language string actually. So we have to go for the word knowledge, and we are processing the language string itself. So in such cases, we can say this Kunchika is karta, and the third one Talaha Udghatete, the Tala, moving of the latch and opening of the lock. So once the latch is opened, so you can say that Tala is karta only. So here the thing is, how much information is coded? See, those are semantic roles, agent, goal, and instrument. But when it comes to this Panini, he says he's completely relying on this Karaka analysis. And based on the rule Swatantra Karta, he says that all three are called Karta because of the sub-activities. So various sub-activities are there. So when it comes to this first activity, Udghateti, the insertion of a key by an agent. So here in this case, Rama is the agent. Okay. What about the second sentence, Kunchika Talam Udghateti? Here pressing of the levers of the lock by an instrument. So here Kunchika is the Karta. Kunchika is doing that activity. So Kunchika is the Karta. And what about Tala? Tala itself is opening. So Tala is the Karta. But for Western linguists, so they say that even though you are using Kunchika and Tala and Pradhama, and you are saying it Karta, but for us, those are not Kartas. Those are always instrument and goal. So this is the thing. So we have to understand how much information is coded in the language string. So we cannot say that Kunchika is it's an instrument, because we have rules like Swatantra Karta, and we have evidences. We can get the evidence from the Mahabhashya and Bhartarai's Vakyapadi also. And how is the information coded? So here, Ramaha Dugdham Pitva Shalam Gachati. Ramaha Dugdham Pitva Shalam Gachati. After drinking the milk, Rama goes to school. So here, 5 words are there. 4 relations are possible. You can see Rama is karta, and Shala is karma, and Dugdham is the karma of the pa, drinking activity. The question is, Rama is the karta of the going activity, but that is not at all indicated by the drinking activity. So how we can get the information? So if you ask a person who drinks the milk, so he says that Rama only. So this indicates that it is the language convention that tells in case of ktwa suffix, Tva means simultaneity. First, he drinks the milk, and after that he goes to the school. So in the case of tva suffix, the karta of the subordinate verb, which is pitva, is the same as that of the main verb. So this Rama is the karta who is performing both the activities, drinking activity as well as gamana, going activity. So we can say that, but we will mark that relation to the main verb gachati only, not with the pitva. So Panini has postulated in terms of a sutra that is called Samana Kartrikayo Purvakale, and it is the language convention which gives a license to not to code the information explicitly. So sometimes what happens is the implicit coding of the information may need extra processing for making such knowledge explicit. So sometimes we will not code the information in explicit manner, and it is required for the machine translation developers to know what is coded explicitly and what is coded implicitly. And if, see, when it comes to this machine translation, we need two languages, right? So source language and target language. If the two languages have different language conventions, one needs to make the implicit information explicit in another language. Then only you can get the idea about the relation of that word, and you can do the process in a fruitful manner. Many such coding techniques are there in Panini, and I'm not going into those details now, because many sutras are there, how he has coded that information. And I will give one example. Maheshwara sutras are there, how he has coded, look evong ayo chayavaratlan. So here two types of nakaras are there. I mean, he has used nakara twice. So how he has used that particular thing while writing sutras. So these things are discussed in the Shastras itself. And now the question is how to get the proper understanding of those Shastras, and how we can process with the help of natural language processing tools. Because see, I will give one instance. When it comes to this compatibility, we say that in Sanskrit, there is no compatibility in the sentence. Ramaha Agnina Vrukshan Sinchati. So here, Rama sprinkles the trees with fire. This is not a valid sentence according to the logicians, Nayayikas, because we haven't experienced that, how one can sprinkle the trees with fire. We sprinkle the trees with water, right? So in Shastra, we will get this example only. Apart from that, we have to check when it comes to the lack of compatibility, we will give this example. And semantically, it is invalid. But what about syntax? According to grammar, it is a valid sentence. Ramaha Vanina Brukshan Sinchati. Okay, it is a valid sentence for grammarians. But you will not get the valid cognition. Even if you parse through the machine also, again, there is a lot of ambiguity. How to resolve this ambiguity? So these things are required. And I will give one instance from English. So there is in Chomsky, you can see, there is a sentence called colorless green ideas sleep furiously. Colorless green ideas sleep furiously. It is a valid sentence. According to the production rules of that language, it's completely valid, but semantically it is invalid. So while parsing or while doing this machine, if we give this information or the language string to the machine, it will not parse. So especially in the case of machine translation, it will not give the meaning actually, but those are valid sentences. So how to understand the concept called information coding, where it is coded and what sort of information is coded and how we can extract that information? So you can get all the clues from Panini's grammar, and we can say that uh, based on these three questions, if one can write a grammar based on these three questions, then we can say it is completely in the spirit of Paninian grammar. So these are the main things required for processing a language. With the help of these questions and other aspects, we can do the language processing with reference to Sanskrit. So it requires a lot of interpretations, sir. So based on the commentaries and all things, we will try to do the parse. So soham itself is not a sentence. We need to supply the kriya pada. So according to the Vyakaranas, grammarians, unless and until if you don't have any kriya pada, you cannot consider it as a sentence. So it is required. Aham brahmasmi, yes, that kriya pada is there, but it requires a lot of interpretation. So based on the commentaries only we can get the meaning. So aham brahmasmi, that philosophical aspect is there, right? So in the case of aham brahmasmi, if you give this sentence as an input to the Sanskrit machine translation system, for example, Sanskrit Hindi machine translation system is there. It will say, "Main Brahma hu," but that deeper analysis is required. So we are working on that particular aspect, but it will take some time. Yeah, I hope I answered your question.
If I can just add to that point.
Yeah, sure, sir.
If I may. This was the reason that I asked, because see, on one hand, it is mere translation. And you also gave the example of the Chomsky's, that sentence, green
Yes.
ideas. And similarly, Rama, that Agni thing example.
Yes.
So one thing is to translate it accurately. The other thing is to make sense of it.
Yes.
But when it comes to these philosophical sentences or this, what are these 4 sentences in Tattvamasi?
Yes. Yes.
Even if you have an accurate translation, I mean, where do you see the scope of NLP here? Will it be, if not now, at least in future, will it replace a Bhashyakara, or will it replace, somebody? That's purpose of my question that I had initially asked.
It will not replace Bhashyakara. Since we are in a digital era, I want to understand the meaning of a particular shloka. Bhagavad Gita shloka is there. So I want to understand. So in Hindi, but assume that I don't have any translation, and I have a machine translation system that will translate the given text from Sanskrit to Hindi. That translation is not accurate. Okay, because some philosophical aspects are there in that particular text, it will not translate accurately. But for those things, we are developing the e-readers. E-readers means it's an it will give the various types of analysis like morphological analysis of a word and the word analysis, and if the word word meaning, and sandhi vicheda and so on. So based on that, up to some extent we can understand the meaning of the text, but not from the machine translation system. It will take some time, sir. Definitely it will not replace the Bhashyakara. And see, if I want to understand the language of Mahabhashyakara Patanjali with the help of NLP tool like machine translation system, if I say I can understand, no, it's not a uh, valid thing. But we are trying to, but it will take some time. We have to understand the language and we have to decode it. So it will take some time. Apart from that,
Thank you, Pavanji. Actually, this also reminds my Guruji saying me many times that there are many commentators who write "Jhonta se jhontaiva artha." Means whatever there is in the panktis, the same is translated into Hindi and is given as a commentary. Though it does not convey whole meaning, which actually Bhashyakara want to convey with his one small sentence. So for that, even more thing is required.
Yes, it's a wonderful question. See, sir, now I think in AAA Hyderabad, they are developing OCR for Sanskrit for manuscripts. And one more institute is there. MIT Pune also is a part of that particular project. And apart from that, I am unable to recall the institutes, but these two institutes are focusing on developing an OCR for the Sanskrit, especially for the handwritten manuscripts. And after some time, they will, generalize it for the handwritten text also. There is a misconception that Sanskrit is suitable for computers, first of all, madam. So the thing is, there is a person called Rick Briggs. He said that you can use the knowledge representation in Sanskrit that will suit for the artificial intelligence. In 1957, that article is there. I will share. First of all, that is a misconception. And now, yes, so even Chomsky and Freestyle and many scholars are saying that Sanskrit, Panini's grammar is a full-fledged grammar. And yes, people are trying to build a compiler based on the Pani's Ashtadhyayi, madam. So Sanskrit compiler, but it's in infant state. It will take some time. That IIIT Hyderabad and some groups are working towards that particular thing. And IIT Kharagpur and University of Hyderabad, and in some places also, they are working in this particular aspect, but it will take some time. So first, the main thing is only NLP people cannot do this particular task. They need the grammarians. Okay, how that information is coded, right? So what is the meaning of that particular thing? First, they have to understand that thing and they have to implement. So it will take some time. And see, in Ashtadhyayi, so you can see there is an algorithmic process in Ashtadhyayi. There is a concept called anuvritti. So without repeating that particular item, Pani had invented a technique called anuvritti. Anuvritti means carrying over the items from the previous rule. So how he has achieved that brevity and all the things they are discussing, and maybe it will take some years, and definitely we will see the end product of that particular thing, I hope, definitely. First of all, there are three factors, madam, when it comes to understanding a sentence. So those are called Akanksha, Yogyata, and Sanidhi, expectancy, compatibility, and proximity. Based on these factors, we will do the parsing. So that first thing, expectancy is completely syntactic. So based on that particular thing, we will do the parse. So Ramaha Gramam Gachati. So Gachati, that T indicates the Karta, and based on that, it expresses the Karta. So Rama is the Karta. We will write some rules. So based on those rules, it will automatically, based on that programs, it will identify the who is the Karta based on that agreement and who is the Karma, and it will identify. It will generate the parse. So we are not going to those semantic level. Semantic level means the meaning part. So now we are working on the word sense disambiguation module. After that only we can go for that analysis. But for the time being, based on the syntax, you will get the proper parse of a sentence. So for that, I think for the time being, no need to go for the semantic aspect of that thing.
Your talk was so impressive that I can see the chats. There are many questions in the chat.
Yeah.
Like some questions from Arvind ji, some question from Bindu Shri ji want to ask some question, but we cannot take all the questions because time is running out. Thank you very much, Pawan ji, for this beautiful session. Thank you all for joining this session and making this session a great success. Thank you very much.
Hari Om, Hari Om.
We'll finish this with a prayer. ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्तिः 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 हरिः ॐ श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ॐ